Oh, hello there, Travis. What are we actually seeing starts to get complicated? It was easy. It will start to separate. Are definitely not behind that restricted access door. They're not. Forget about it.
None of them will be able to be revived.
So please, be reasonable, returning to the orientation we usually is the part of traditional. A stabby, but I don't think. And those rectangular outcroppings weren't. Here is my Catwoman glove and glove. I should have a floating, impossible anti-gravity blah blah blah. Now, if we were to take it, snapshots, eventually, how do you transmit a discrete shell?
Well, alright, we've been tracking this thing for weeks and we still don't know what it is.
The basilisk has its eyes on you. What are you going to do? And at some point, the acceleration is going to get so high that you're going to pass 9.8 meters. Look, I know that neither of those examples were fun. A screaming fish on this side would never be fun, leaving me weightless no matter where I am. What the? We generate our truth endogenously or within our own bodies. I give killer high fives. Is it? Is it? This story is only one of a dozen. Okay, good, for this rock, paper, scissors. Where are you right now? Bam. The fingerling. That fingerling. Isn't that wild? Fingerling.
Mr. Coffee. Oh, I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
The only way that they're going to actually see you all the way out there is that if they use this new telescope and they point it like directly at your home planet. No, I mean with the transit time around your star, the actual angle that you compress. I mean, look, your solar system is pretty. It's impressive. Look, Gleep Glorp. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it just takes up a very small slice of the sky, of the night sky seen from Earth. So the chances that the James Webb are going to... What? Yeah, a Dyson sphere will probably increase your chances of being... That was you? I spent a lot of time telling people that Amunmura whatever space rock wasn't a spacecraft, but that was you, crazy Django. Yeah, no, it's a word in our language, too. Okay. Yeah. No, in about 5,000 years, yeah, I'll definitely have them ready for colonization. What? No, why would I be on camera? Hey, Gleepy. I gotta go. Love you. Bye. Don't ignore that. The James Webb Space Telescope. Now in space, as you see before you. There's a lot of hullabaloo, a lot of hubbub about this new latest and greatest telescope, this telescope that is seen as the successor to the Hubble telescope. If you're not a big space nerd, that's okay. I'm going to explain to you, all of you watching at home today, live, why this newest scientific instrument is poised to become the most productive scientific instrument in the history of humanity. Yeah, even more than that one ruler that you use a lot. Welcome to Office Hours. Whoa, man, the deceleration on landing is pretty... Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, the live component of the facility where good old Professor Kyle here opens up his blast doors and allows all of you, members of the general public, all you at home, everyone who ignored all my warning signs about the laser bees, to come on in for the next hour or so. Ask me any old question that your heart desires about science-y, pop culture-y, mostly science-y things. As we do so, of course, we'll be going through a number of main topics today. We'll be talking about the JWST, or the Webby, as I'm going to be calling it, because I don't want to say the acronym over and over again, and we'll be taking your comments, questions, and corrections from the latest episode here at the facility. But as we do so, I'm going to be looking at chat, I'm going to be looking at all of you, I'm going to be doing my best to take all your comments and questions. Also doing their best is my security team, Heather and Jabo. Be respectful in the chat, or else you get yeeted out into the great beyond. And if you really, really, really want to get your comment and or question in there, you can try Super Chat here on YouTube. I can't promise that I'll get to every single Super Chat, but I will do my very best. And if I don't get to it, please know that it still goes towards a very nerdy place and home, like paying for my visas to Ukraine. For example, Elizabeth Calvert, as always, with the 20, says, I'm a little late today, but my tiny human is asking, don't worry about it, Liz. My tiny human Alex is asking, how fast is lightning? I'm assuming it's the speed of light. Liz and Alex, young little Alex, I hope your schooling is going well. I know it's stressful for you right now, your mom tells me, but I'm sure you're going to get through it, little guy. You got this, buddy. You see lightning at the speed of light. The photons reach your eyes at the speed of light. You see lightning at the speed of light, but the speed that lightning itself moves at is how quickly the charges, the positive and negative charge, or negative and positive charges between the clouds and the ground, how quickly that equalizes. And it happens to be about a third the speed of light. So you're close. You're only off by 60% or so, but that's in relativistic terms, I think that's pretty close. And I am so caffeinated. And, of course, coming in every week, as he likes to do, Exploring with Sparky with the $500 donation. Sparky, you psychomaniac. Last time we spoke with Sparky, what was he doing? Oh, yes, he was watching a live stream of mine from Aspen, Colorado. Sparky, I hope you're safe and sound away from all those wildfires in Colorado. I hope you're watching from a equally snobby place today. Happy to have you here, and thank you for putting a number of my Kevins through college. Fish Sticks 420 says, I totally saw you commenting on the Fish New Year's Eve live stream. Yes. The long hair might give it away, but I love the band Fish, and yes, Fish Sticks 420. I was watching the Fish live stream. I was there. It's pretty good. But you thought I froze for a second, didn't you? I didn't. But before we get to the rest of your comments and questions, I want to make sure that we are getting to today's main topic, which is why the JWST is the next big thing. I see a deleted message saying I'm the most handsome scientist ever. Hey, it's fine. As long as you don't use all caps, you're not going to get bopped in the head. But I'm going to bop you in the head right now with some space science. Let's go. The James Webb Space Telescope. An origami masterpiece of science, technology, innovation, perseverance, preservation. So like I said, Brian Kolos with a 3 says, tell my friend Corey he will win this Yu-Gi-Oh duel. Hey Corey, just believe in the heart of the cards and have a old Egyptian demon inside your body? Not like that. So you may have heard a lot about the JWST lately, or the James Webb Space Telescope. And if you have been doing so, listening, then that means you probably follow some space nerds. But if you're not a space nerd like these nerds that you follow or hear from, you may not know exactly why this is so exciting. Josh with the 20 says, what happens to the Hubble now that it's been outclassed? Hubble will probably not be saved. We'll have some more time on its life. Couple of years or whatever it is, and then it's going to deorbit and disintegrate in the atmosphere. But I think we should save it. Anyway. You may not know why the JWST, or the Webby, as we're going to call it, is so incredible. So let's start from the basics. The JWST, or the Webby, was conceived a long time ago by two scientists who loved each other's brains very much. And it was mentally conceived in 1989. So 32 years ago. It's been in some sort of conceptual and actual development for 3 decades. Kale Silverwind with a 20 says, so I have a different question this week. I work at a time provider and where the deal is 26 hours for a price of 24. Where do you buy your time from? Caffeine. So this has been in production in some way or another, mentally or physically, for over 30 years, a long, long time. And I think the first step in conceptualizing how difficult this thing was to make and implement is to see how dang big it actually is. So this is the Webby in its full unfurled, well, it's not fully unfurled, we'll get to that, but as you can see, this telescope is actually enormous. You see the little Kevin there for scale. You see the Kevin there for scale, and it is very, very, you're very, very small. And this is bigger than the Hubble telescope. Exactly this many. And the unfurling of the sun shield, as we will get to, that's about the size of a tennis court. Okay? So this is a very large implement, a very large scientific instrument. So you can imagine putting something that is this large, that is this delicate, as we will get to, putting that on top of a controlled bomb or a rocket is a tall order. It's such a tall order that, I do have that. It's such a tall order that the total cost of the JWST is about $10 billion. $9.7 billion. Again, here's another picture for scale. That little guy is in the center where the rest of the array is going to go. It's enormous. $10 billion. 10 new technologies had to be invented just to implement the design as you see it here today. This is like the Isaac Newton of telescopes. They want to do something so crazy they had to invent new technology just to do what their minds cooked up. That's why humans are so amazing. But the JWST is enormous. It's absolutely enormous. So looking at this shape, you can tell that that's not going to fit in the tip of a rocket. So this is where the complicated stuff comes in, right? The Hubble telescope wasn't implemented via rocket in the same way, but the Hubble was a lot more cylindrical, right? Hubble, beep boop, looked like it'd be easier to fit in a tube. Does it not? Not so with the JWST. This is a complicated machine. And so what they had to actually do, if they wanted a design like this, they had to figure out how to fold this incredibly intricate design up into an origami-like shape. Crumple it, scientifically, crumple it so that it could fit inside the tip of a rocket and be launched into space. Now, Kevin M., with the 500 yen, first time to catch a live stream, came to Simp for Science, Oni-chan. I'm assuming that is good. Kenny Kid with the 10, first time I've ever donated to a live chat, dumping for science. I think you meant simping. So worth it. Love your work. Keep it up. Kenny, I'm humbled to be your first. Anyway. So they had to scientifically crumple this telescope up into, oh yes, so the best way I've heard this put was like launching an orchid on a bomb. Like putting an orchid on a bomb and hoping that something doesn't shake apart. And these sheets here are about the thickness of aluminum foil. And if you've ever tried to store leftovers after a big Thanksgiving meal or holiday dinner, as you may have done recently, you know that that tears very easily. You have 5 of those sheets, the size of tennis courts, on this, folded up, worth $10 billion on the top of a controlled bomb being launched into space. And if anything goes wrong, bye-bye. So we haven't even gotten to why this is an amazing device yet. Just the implementation of it was amazing. Any telescope's got to have a great mirror. A bigger mirror, a better mirror, means more light and more accurate descriptions of that light. So you can see the average lady, 1.75 meters tall. That's the mirror for the Hubble telescope. That is the compound mirror for the Webb telescope. As you can see, much bigger. And again, something that can't really fit into a tube. So how do they do that? We'll get to that in a moment. Look how fancy that is. It's complicated. Now we get to the amazing stuff. Well. Beep-boop. This mirror, the difference in size in this mirror here is going to lead to about 100-fold increase in resolving ability for the James Webb. So if the seeing value for the Hubble telescope is 1, the seeing value for the Webb is 100. So it's much, much, much better. I'll put it this way. This mirror here is so good at resolving small details from stuff far away. This mirror would be able to read the date on a penny 24 miles away. Think about that for a second. It could read the year, it could see Lincoln's face in all its not very handsome detail from 24 miles away. Incredible. And now we are putting that in space to look at what? And what is the important part here? So, as you may know, galaxies are out there, and we want to look at them. But their light takes time to travel to us. Not only that, but the universe is also expanding away from us, complicating the issue of trying to see light getting to us. Karagoth with the SEK200, fabric simulation is hard, now do it in zero-G and fold it like a parachute. Exactly. J Arrows with the 99! Finally able to catch a live stream again, thanks to COVID. Nice to get caught up with this, and I hate your deck. Thank you for the science, Jay. I hope you are feeling as good as you could be possibly feeling right now. Hope you're safe and healthy. Especially now, with Omicron being, as I tweeted out yesterday, it is now literally the fastest spreading virus known to man ever. Be safe out there. But let's get back to this and why the Webb is so cool. So, if you want to see light, you have to wait for it to get to you. But if the universe is also expanding as you're waiting, that means that effectively that light's wavelength is going to stretch out. And if the wavelength of light changes, then the light itself is going to change. This is what scientists call redshift. So if we look at galaxies far away, we look at them today and then we look at them a year from now, they're going to look a little bit redder. Their visible light is going to look a little bit redder, or stretching even further, their light is going to be more in the infrared spectrum. Now, for objects very, very close to us, relatively speaking, the universe has not expanded as much. And so redshift, looking at the moon, redshift isn't an issue. But looking at, say, trying to see the edge of the the edge of the observable universe, where the Big Bang's light is, 13 billion miles away. 13 billion miles away. You might suspect that redshift will be enormous, and in fact it is. With the Hubble telescope right now, when we look at these galaxies on the very edge of the observable universe, what we see are just tiny red globs, not the details on a penny. And so what the Webb telescope is going to do is look for infrared light. And it's doing this to look at the redshifted light from galaxies as far away as we can possibly get with our technology right now. We're talking about galaxies so far away. We're talking about light from when the universe was 1% the age it is now. 1% into its current lifespan. Just a few 100 million years after the universe was banged into existence. Maybe that was the wrong phrase, but you get what I mean. So with the James Webb Space Telescope, we will be able to see further and in a different part of the spectrum, the part of the spectrum where the oldest galaxies lie and their light, and we will look at this light to hopefully learn about the early universe with incredible resolution. Full Spectrum Matter with the 25 says, the Webby is the closest we will ever get to an IRL time machine. We are looking back 13 billion years. Literally. Because the light took 13 billion years to get to us, and we can't see it in sufficient detail and resolution without a scientific instrument such as the Webby. Now, something else I wanted to show you is... So that's what scientists are really excited about. Scientists are really excited about looking into the past, looking at the early universe, and seeing what they can learn with a telescope 100 times more powerful than the Hubble telescope, looking at light that's more informative than visible light for what they want to know about. And this will be even further away than the Hubble telescope. It will be 1 million miles in orbit. And let me put... So at the beginning of the stream, I said that this might be the most single productive scientific instrument in human history. More than any single centrifuge or hammer or microscope, any single thing, single instrument. I can say that because that title now belongs to the Hubble telescope. The way I like to put it is, I looked this up, about 10% of the most cited scientific papers use Hubble data in astronomy and cosmology. 10%. And Hubble data has been used in over 10,000 scientific papers. I know it's reducing it, but it is like having one ruler that is so good, scientists pass it around to each other for 20 years, 30 years, or whatever it is. Like, here, this ruler is awesome, you use it now, and you use it now. And that ruler is so good, it shows up in 10% of the entire field's papers. That'd be one hell of a ruler, wouldn't it? Being 100 times more powerful, being the spiritual actual successor to the Hubble telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope is poised to take that title and be incredibly informative. But, I dare say I'm on a roll here, but we're not out of the woods yet, because making this shape after it's been deployed from the rocket, as has been done The James Webb Space Telescope is now in space, and just today it passed a major milestone. But it is not fully unfurled into this shape, and it can't fully do science until it's in this shape. So we're not out of the woods yet. But where in the woods are we going? Well, so this was, when it was deployed, it looked like this. In origami crunch, you have the solar array here to power it with solar power. High gain antenna at the bottom, send and receive data. Sunshield pallets, what's going to be the apparatus to spread out these sunshields, which is maybe the most important part of this telescope, and we'll get to that. They have to raise the tower. AJ says, "Yo, Kyle, what's good?" AJ, I'm busy. Thank you. Now you have to release the membranes. I think I missed a radiator back there. So that is something where the heat accumulated by the device can radiate out into space, hence radiator. You don't want it to get too hot. Why? Because we'll get back to that. It's Liquid Flames the 5 says, "It's been explained to me many times, but I still don't understand how the observable universe is 93 billion light years, but Webb sees back only 13. Liquid, you're confused on one thing. The observable universe, the light that we can see, is 13. The size of the universe plus the stuff that hasn't had enough time to reach us is the bigger one, the unobservable universe. So this is what happened just a few hours ago. This is what most of the scientists and engineers were worried about. This was the hardest part. Unfurling these 5 tennis court-sized aluminum sheet-thin sheets into this sunshield. And what you're seeing now will come in a couple of days. Another radiator deploying to lose heat. And finally, moving the rest of the mirrors into place such that it creates that familiar dish shape. Now, and then about 30 days after launch, it'll be moved into its orbit using thrusters. But I just want to point out the last amazing thing of this. Dirk, Happy New Year to you. The last amazing part of this is that if you want to look at infrared light, which is heat, you feel infrared light as heat. If you want to look at that, you don't want a lot of noise. Similarly, if you're trying to take a picture with visible light, you don't want a lot of other ambient light coming into your detector and messing up your image. I mean, who are we, J.J. Abrams with lens flares? No, thank you. Get a different film technique. So if we want to look at infrared light, we want to block out as much heat as we can from getting to our detector. That means trying to operate this main dish as cold as possible, just a few degrees above absolute zero. We want this thing at negative 400 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 370 or whatever it is, but almost absolute zero. So what this sunshield is doing is literally preventing light from the sun, reflected light from Earth, reflected light from the moon, from getting to this part of the apparatus where the detector and such is. Think of this like you're standing in the shade. If you want to take a great picture that's not backlit or a bunch of lens flares like J.J. Abrams, having your camera shaded from that light will make it easier to see what you're looking for. Similarly, I liked the first example that came to mind for whatever reason is snakes. Snakes that see in infrared light as well, like vipers. When do vipers hunt? At night. Because, well, not only do they spend all day getting their energy because they're exothermic and they need Anyway. But if you hunt at night, if a viper that sees with infrared light is trying to look for a little mouse, you want your background, everything around you, to be as cold as possible. So when the desert night falls and it becomes very cold, you have this cold landscape, and then you have this very hot little mouse, relatively speaking. And it can see it, it can snatch it. Similarly, if you're looking for some of the oldest light in the observable universe, if you want to see what happened right after the Big Bang, and you can only do so in infrared light, you want to block out as much infrared light from messing and distorting and noising up your detector as possible, and that is what these sun shields do. Whew. I think I nailed it. Chat, that is why the James Webb Space Telescope is so amazing. I wanted to share another little thing. When was this? In 2014, I went to JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I have a friend of a friend who worked on the James Webb Space Telescope. He showed me the actual imaging. He showed me the sensors. He was working in microfluidics and supercooled liquids, and he was explaining to me just how cold the sensor needs to be, and they have to run liquid helium through it and all this crazy stuff. And he gave me a piece of special tape, which they use at NASA on spacecraft, that's non-static tape. So if you move it around, it doesn't create a charge that could fry something. And see this? This looks like hair, but it's not hair. What that is thinner than hair superconducting thread. So on devices like this, they have thinner than a human hair thread that is superconducting at those cold temperatures. Even more of a reason to keep things cold. When it's hard to get rid of heat in space, you could burn this up real easy. But in space, when it's so cold, if you do it right, you can use thin as all get out wire to superconduct stuff. Oh. That dude was way smarter than me. Anyway, what do you have to say, Chad? Do you think it would be possible to recover Hubble and put it in a museum, says Monster with the 5? I don't know. It seems like a very complicated endeavor to either move Hubble to a suitable orbit and then try to match it with a spacecraft or a space shuttle, which we don't have any space shuttles running right now, and then grab it with the Canadarm and bring it in and then land it back. It seems like it's hard and it would cost a lot of money, and I don't know if the current administration would go for it, but given that Hubble and its images were so many things to so many people, I think it'd be worth it. Someone in chat asked me if I got anything for Christmas. I did get one thing for Christmas, and that is my good friend, James Hobson, the hacksmith. He makes things real, as you know. And he and his team have been making screen-accurate solid metal. Well, I think there's like 3 pieces, but basically solid. Screen-accurate solid metal Thor's hammers. And guess what? This thing is 15 to 20 pounds of metal. Incredible detail. Everything on it. Even got the leather strap. These are metal. This is leather. It's all in here. I am ready to ban some of you. You know? Could you push Hubble out to a stable Lagrange point? No idea. I don't know what thrusters it's got on it, if there's enough fuel. I don't know. Handsome hammer? Yeah, I know. Yeah. James was kind enough. He said Science Thor needs one of these. So thank you, James. It's beautiful, and I love it. And it's heavy. I can do tricep extensions with it. From Georgia again, Deshun, frequent super chatty boy. From Georgia again, hey Koopa, happy to have you here. From Georgia again, does this mean, how does this mean for the advancement of science and general science? And also, did you go into debt going to Chernobyl? Like I said, Deshun, if this is to succeed Hubble is already maybe the most successful scientific instrument of all time, used in tens of thousands of papers, in 10% of astronomy and cosmology papers. If this is even more powerful and has an even longer lifespan, maybe, then this could mean this is too simplistic, but if it's 100 times more powerful, we will be able to learn things about the universe that we've never been able to learn before. Did you go into debt going to Chernobyl? No, not at all. I'm good. I'm fine. Lucas White says, how do rod and cone cells work? Physics answer. The cells in the back of your retina, rods and cones, two different types. One for black and white, two for black and white, two for color. A wavelength of light will activate a certain chemical, will bounce off and excite a certain protein in your eye. I think it's called opsin, and that creates a chemical reaction which creates an electrical difference in cells, which create a charge difference, which go into your brain as electrical signals from your optic nerve, and then it translates that back into images. I don't know. Dang. What do you think about the Nikon? I have no idea. Can a civilian get a hold of ballistics gel? Says Heidi. Yes. Hubble was way more successful than expected, says Nikolai. Yes, it was. Russell says, you're amazing, Kyle. Keep up the great work. Been watching your videos for years and I love it. Russell! Let's get in here. Vendetta says, Tokaimura Hisashi Ochi incident from 1999 video soon. Yes, it is on the list for a Half-Life history. Right now, we kind of have to get through our Chernobyl stuff. But it is on the list. Victor Bochet, with the Canadian $10. Kyle, spelled with a Y, by the way. In your opinion, what's the craziest discovery James Webb will unfold that we couldn't get with Hubble? Cheers from Canada. I don't know. Not an astronomer or a cosmologist, but I honestly don't know. If it can look into just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang, that could prove or disprove theories about the early universe, the expansion of the universe, maybe look into expansion rates or the cosmological constant or something like that. I don't know. Ask Neil deGrasse Tyson on Twitter, and I'm positive he won't get back to you with a snarky response. Why would he do that? It's not like he's bad at Twitter. Peer review. Ian McCoury with the 10 says, hey Kyle, I just learned you like cephalopods recently. I have and still am dedicating my life to studying giant squid. Architeuthis, baby! So cool that my favorite science YouTuber loves my favorite science subject. Ian, love me a good cephalopod. In fact, one of you lovely I have a giant squid plushie, and it's holding a medal from one of the Chernobyl liquidators. Don't worry about it. I don't want to get it. But one of you lovely facility members did hand knit me maybe my favorite, which is the Flamboyant Cuttlefish. A tiny little cuttlefish with beautiful colors, can change its color and its texture, and it uses two of its arms to walk along the seafloor, and it's adorable. Peer review. So, as I'm like to do on every episode of the facility, I like to go back and look at the comments and see what you said. See if there's anything that makes me go, hey, oh wow, that's crazy. And then I make you an honorary member of the facility. Oops, I lost it. There it is. Honorary member of the facility. You get a plaque from Kevin. And then that's it. And in this week's last week at the facility, I asked a weird question. I said, should guns in space be illegal? I was thinking about this question after asking my friend and fellow hair enthusiast and grump master, Ty Frank, co-creator of The Expanse, of which you know I'm an enormous fan. So I asked him about his award-winning, critically acclaimed series of books and TV shows, and I asked him, what do nerds like you question him the most about? And one of the questions he gets the most is, what happens to all the projectiles and bullets that miss in space? Won't they go on to hit something eventually? Well, I challenged this view, and we did some math. If you want to go back on the facility main channel right now, we have a full half an hour discussion with Ty. If you want an even longer, nerdier discussion, that's a whole hour, you can go subscribe on Patreon, join the facility today. But for right now, let's see what you had to say. Pedro, I don't know how to say that first part. Pedro, so basically if humanity is firing enough shots to be worried about the space stray projectiles, then we should probably worry way more about the reason for all this shooting. Jenny Ray with the Douglas Adams quote, "We totally need guns in space," says Miko. "If there's no guns, then there's no Cowboy Bebop. That would be totally unacceptable." Tell that to Netflix. I remember a random encounter you can get in Stellaris wherein one of your science ships can receive a glancing blow from an old mass driver round out of nowhere. I thought that was really cool, says Silver Shades. Yes, that is getting to this point. There are already trillions of bullet-sized objects whizzing around the solar system at bullet speed. I'm not too worried by the comparatively small number of projectiles humans can realistically add to that. Good point. Newbie. I can imagine this could spawn a level of space tourism. Come see the bullets of the rebellion fight against the Empire in the Battle of Jupiter 200 years ago. They'll be in our sky for 1 week only. A whole ship of people who reenact space battles on board while visiting the bullets that missed. Newbie, that's insane, but it is exactly the kind of forward thinking that I would see in an interesting science fiction story, I think. Who is the nerdiest nerd of all? Ooh. Let's see. Max Xro. As you guys touch on right at the end, these projectiles would probably have very varied and unstable orbits, and all planets are really good vacuum cleaners for the solar system, Jupiter especially. Thinking about it this way, I think these projectiles would never be any more dangerous than the objects already orbiting in the belt. So unless we fear the asteroid belt enough to make it illegal, I don't think shooting projectiles in space should be illegal either. Lots of people saying very similar stuff. I'm giving it to Max Zextro. Max, thank you for watching, commenting on our episode about The Expanse. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out, or else the last 5 to 10 minutes that I've been talking won't mean anything to you. Max, contact me, one of my Kevins, who has... Contact me or one of my Kevins who has a plaque. I'm laughing because of what you brought. It's definitely not a plaque. Max, you are now an honorary member of the facility, and Kevin's going to bring you your plaque right now. Fantastic. Everybody, fantastic job this week. Wait, what? No, Kevin, that's not a plaque. This is a draft top opener you use to make beer cans more drinkable if you really want to drink a lot of beers in a short amount of time, given to me by one Post Malone. Yes, that Post Malone. Where'd you get this? I told you to stay out of my room. Hey, I'm local science guy Kyle Hill. Have you ever felt like these days Stuff just don't make sense. You ever wanted to wear some merchandise that captures that feeling of being here, but kind of being sad, but not really being sad, but making jokes about being sad while being sciencey? Well, I have good news for you. Right now, extended through the end of the year, thanks to you, you can go to shop.kylehill.net for our first lifestyle drop of merchandise at the facility. All new designs, dopamine deficient, dark energy, losing to entropy, the most popular one. We have shirts, hoodies, tote bags, mugs. Get one today. It all goes towards supporting the facility and for making that look on my face a little less, existential dready. Man, those for a pre-recorded ad, that wasn't so bad. Alex Wilson calls me Early Malone. Tao Man Tom says you're getting lazy. He said, as I explained an entire mechanism of action for a very complicated scientific device in a concise and interesting way for 20 minutes without taking hardly 10 breaths to you, who's in here for free, get out. Anyway. So, chat, for the next, the rest of today's up to you. For the next little while, if you have any other questions, comments, things that you're wondering and or worrying about. Sorry, I made that noise. Twinge with the 199, just a thumbs up. Classy. Pythos Sapunov says, Kyle is a synth confirmed. No. Although, when you, when you show up in Fallout 4 in Diamond City, there's a confrontation going on, and one of the guys is named Kyle, and they shoot him dead in the street. And then you check his body, and he wasn't a synth. The Memes of Destruction says, do you like turtles? Yes, I would like to pick up a alligator snapping turtle behind its neck and by its butt like this, and hold it like this and be like, oh, dang. I've always been fascinated with with snapping turtles. Maybe because they look so prehistoric and they're so dangerous. I want to hold I want to put like a carrot on a stick and put it close to its mouth and just see it do like that. You know that piranha teeth are so sharp that they used to use them as scissors, and some cultures still do. Now them some chompers. Static Ethan says, how was your 2021? Ethan, we launched a new gaming channel. We got to 1 million subscribers after having to start from scratch. After escaping the void, we went to Chernobyl. We saw lava being made. We visited Adam Savage. After 5 years of being apart from Science Daddy. We did a lot of stuff last year, and I'm hoping that we can do just as many stuff this year that is bigger and better. I have my own resolutions. I don't know about yours. But one of them is to bike 1,000 miles this year. I biked just before I got on stream. That's why I'm sitting down. Kyle, you're a great science communicator. Thanks for sciencing and making the world better. It says, Valsadar Zipo Dvorsky. I didn't see that video with Adam, says Michael Skinner. Adam. Oh, Michael. The Adam video is being worked on right this second by one of my Kevins in the back there. That's why the lights are flickering. He's using a lot of power. And we're just waiting on Adam's end because we actually filmed a collaboration. I fulfilled what I know it's gonna sound name droppy, but I got to fulfill a nerd dream, a childhood fantasy. I got to build something with Adam Savage. So we did a one-day build on the tested channel that will be coming out soon. I will then release my video, which is just a long conversation with Adam, on our channel at the same time. So you get to watch not one but two videos. And to answer your question, yes, when we were building stuff together, I did almost cry. But, like, in a respectful, cool way, you know. Karagoth with the SEK 50. Visiting Chernobyl can challenge any nuclear proponent. Has your stance been challenged? No. I've been asked this a couple of times now. And, it'd be one thing. So, I've been asked this a couple of times. Does the disaster that Chernobyl definitely is, does that change your proponents of nuclear energy? And no, I'm still a proponent of nuclear energy. I think it is the way forward. I think it is overall safe and efficient and effective. And that's because Chernobyl wasn't like a nuclear reactor melting down while it was operating normally. It wasn't like all of a sudden a nuclear reactor exploded. It wasn't like that. The reactor that exploded was an old Russian RBMK design, a design that had known flaws in its very design. That if a specific thing went wrong, the whole thing would frickin' explode. But they built these anyway. They were trying to compete with the United States. They wanted to be the true nuclear superpower in the world, the Soviet Union. So they made these semi-dangerous reactors. And then some guys, some scientists and engineers who were decided to do a dangerous test. They decided to do a dangerous test and make it even more dangerous by removing a number of safety precautions while doing the test. And then Chernobyl happened. So Chernobyl represents a confluence of a lot of unfortunate factors, but it's not like those factors are common. It's not like if you build a nuclear reactor in your backyard, it's going to become Chernobyl. No, Chernobyl was human error combined with engineering error, and the worst case scenario. You could do the same thing at any other power. Like, there could be, what if a water treatment plant was designed in a dangerous way, and then they did a weird test and the whole city's water was poisoned with lead or chlorine or something. Similar. That could happen. But in normal, safe, and especially modern reactor designs, it just wouldn't. It just wouldn't. So. And think of how many people, if you add up every single person who has died, relatively speaking, not relatively speaking, if you add up every person that can be linked to a nuclear disaster's death, if you add those all up, it is still 1/1000th, if not less, than the number of people who die from fossil fuel production and pollution every year. 1,000 people in China die a day. 4,000 people over decades are linked to Chernobyl. 4,000 deaths. Pollution kills more people in China in 4 days, in a week, from fossil fuels. So, keep everything in perspective. You know what I'm talking about, baby? Breadboard with the 20 says, Kylo, I'm bad at asking the professor questions after class. I know, I get it. I put my hair up like I'm a cool student like you. I get it. Thoughts on nuclear propulsion like the Nerva concept? The thing is, turns out people and governments are rightly scared about, sometimes rockets explode, and if there was like nuclear material inside of the rocket when it exploded, probably an issue. Feral Beast with the 25. Just dropping some love to my favorite science guy. Keep up the fantastic work, Feral Beast. Same to you. Okay, you speak of people who die of energy production, but how is it calculated, says Mr. Cauliflower. Well, obviously you have, when you're talking about like a nuclear disaster, it's easy to quantify, right? Radiation-linked cancers, explosions, that kind of thing. But when you're talking about coal production, non-nuclear energy production, you're talking about accidents, mishaps, and things like that related to just getting fossil fuels out of the ground. And still, like guys working on an oil rig, and that's very dangerous, right? You know that. Or down in a coal mine, or what have you. Still more dangerous than operating a nuclear reactor. You know. Pius Moltar says, you're just making me more anti-nuclear. Well, then Why? What did I say? I feel like I said the opposite of that. Fishy is golden with the anime avatar, so they must be a cool person. With the 5, it says, hi Kyle, first time catching a live stream. Whew! Love the content, love the show. I regularly tell people I know to check out your amazing work. Keep being awesome, Fishy. I knew that avatar was a good choice right when I saw it. Thank you for being here. Wait, did you answer Jacob's question? Who's Jacob? I don't see any Jacob. You're causing me to have dead air. Oh, Pius saying why they're more anti-nuclear. Yes, and more reactors have flaws and will continue to have flaws, including flaws we haven't even considered yet. Well, if you're worried about the stuff that we don't even know to be worried about and we haven't discovered them yet, you're just assuming. Let me put it this way. Does it, given current technology and modern fail-safes and stuff like that, and designs, safety designs, is it likely, is it more likely or less likely that we're missing as the number of flaws that something like Chernobyl had? Given 30 years, 35 years of technological advancement, I think you would probably have to argue that it is less likely to have the same or more flaws than something like Chernobyl had. And what about Fukushima? Again, design error and humans turning the other way. There, as you can watch, Moltar, my episode about Fukushima on the channel, and there were numerous studies before the tsunami basically saying, hey, if a tsunami this size hits us, it's gonna be bad. And they ignored it, and then a tsunami that size hit them. Power plants, nuclear and otherwise, usually need a lot of water for cooling, especially nuclear power plants, because they use it for cooling and moderation of the nuclear reactions. So being by a large body of water is good for that. And Fukushima, the TEPCO organization, decided to build theirs on the sea in one of the strongest current systems in the world, where tsunamis hit. That isn't... I know what you're thinking, Moltar, but that isn't the nuclear reactor's fault. You know what I mean? You can put one in near a big lake. But they didn't. Trying to supply Tokyo, try to be as efficient, as cost-cutting as possible. You can blame, and I can blame, the people who are at fault, the people who turned their backs on known problems, the people who made bad design and placement choices. We can blame that, but to consider, by association, nuclear technology as always bad, I think is a mistake. Hey Kyle, you're awesome. Hey, come on. What do you think about molten salt reactors then, Captain Dagan? Captain, one of my most prolific members of the society. Molten salt reactors are really cool. One of my first jobs ever on camera was to go and be on site on one for a TV show and talk to people about it. And I went up 600 feet into the Nevada sky. And if you're ever driving from, let's just say, Los Angeles to Las Vegas, You will see in the desert sparkling sunlight, and what that is 10,000 mirrors in an array, all pointing up to a tower that's being heated up, and at the top of that tower being heated up is salt. The salt gets molten. That molten salt flows back down. That salt can be used then with its heat to generate steam, which turns turbines, which generates electricity. Why molten salt is really cool is that it holds heat for a long time. So long, in fact, that you can continue to generate heat even after the sun goes down. So it's very cool. That's my opinion. Will thorium reactors actually work, says Axby with the 2. I need to do an episode about thorium reactors. I'm not super... I know they're good because you can't even theoretically weaponize them, I don't think. But I don't know everything about them. I used to be pro-nuclear, by the way, says Moltar, but now I'm anti-nuclear. Well, I think I can point out that it in cases like Chernobyl and Fukushima, it is clearly more to do with design and then human error and decision making. It's not like the reactors themselves are unstable and melting down. If that was the case, we would expect to see cases where reactors were melting down in the absence of human error. We're like, oh, this new reactor, everything's going right, it's a modern reactor, that's great. Oops, everyone's dead. We've never seen that. Ever. Show me one. Show me one operating nuclear power plant that has melted down in the absence of human error. That is to say, that has overcome its safeguards when designed correctly. I don't think there is one. That's the difference, right? If it was unable to be controlled, we were doing it wrong, we should see that. But we don't. You can control it in the right way in the absence of clear design flaws and bad decisions, right? I don't know. Hey man, look. It's my opinion. I've done a lot of reading on it. I've put my boots on the ground. I've been literally... You'll see it. So over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, you will see it. I'd say less than 30 meters, less than 100 feet away from the sarcophagus at Chernobyl, under the dome. I was looking at the sarcophagus. I was in an environment negatively pressured, wearing a respirator where the ambient background radiation rate was 100 times that it was outside of the dome. Trust me, I respect the power and the potential of the nuclear. And I was right there. And I put a lot of time into thinking about it. And I'm still on the side of nuclear power. Anyway, so I'm going to take one or two more here before we wrap everything up. People are getting me all riled up about nuclear energy. Hey, stop it. Mr. Black Raptor with the 20 says, hey Kyle, bit off topic. Great. But what happens when you accelerate matter to the speed of light? Does its mass seemingly increase because its own gravitational waves start to overlap and increase in magnitude? No, it's a relativistic change. And relativistic mass is a contentious topic among physicists. Basically, you can't, anything with mass, you cannot accelerate to the speed of light because it would take an infinite amount of energy. And because of mass energy equivalence, it seems to gain more mass as it travels at these speeds, closer and closer to which you need infinite energy. It gets complicated. I'm going to admit I fully don't understand it, but it is not because of gravitational waves, I don't believe. Ezekiel with the 5. My wife's concern with nuclear is the waste treatment, which looks like, in general, it can leak into poor communities' water. Thoughts? Also on my list is to do a full episode about nuclear waste. spoiler alert, I believe that the maintenance and or mitigation of fossil fuel pollution is so much worse. It makes the storage of fuel byproducts from nuclear power look trivial in comparison. But Ezekiel, I believe your wife is right. When not adequately stored and taken care of, yes, bad things can happen. But again, and it sounds like I'm an apologist here, but I don't believe I am. Again, when you have cases of nuclear waste like leaking out into a community or something like that, a lot of the time it is because there wasn't a good plan and there wasn't enough funding. In the United States right now, there are hundreds of nuclear waste sites with potential. We had the Yucca Mountain plant. A lot of these ideas were ready to be put into implementation, but were then forgotten about or canceled or ignored and given no money. So now, most nuclear power plants store their nuclear waste on site. But it doesn't have to be that way. So, operating, all things being equal, I think if you had there are designs out today, and if you actually funded them, so they worked, I think the designs today would mitigate the threat from nuclear waste and be trivial in comparison to the waste we put out into the atmosphere, to the waste that's killing 1,000 people a day in China and millions a year across the world. Thank you so much for joining me for today's office hours. We went a little bit long, but that's because you aggravated me about nuclear power. That's fine. We should talk about it. If you're scared, if you have questions, we should talk about it. I'm not an expert. I have my foot in the door to this space just like you do. If you want to learn more, go read a book about it. Ask an expert. Request a paper on Twitter. Do your diligence. I will try to do the same, but I want to be your stepping stone. I want to push you in the right direction if you're willing to be pushed in the back by me. What did we talk about today? We talked about the James Webb Space Telescope, why it is so awesome in the true sense of the word, and what it could possibly do. If you're just joining us or you joined us late, go back to the main channel in a few minutes after this is up. Watch the full thing. We also talked about your comments and questions from The Expanse, and I then gave you a plaque, which happened to be a draft beer top from Post Malone. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. I know I took a week there off, but I didn't want to actually lose my mind. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, Christmas, whatever you celebrate, Festivus. Hope you had an amazing New Year. I hope you have resolutions that you believe will change your life in a positive way, that are achievable. And I hope that all your 2020 dreams come true. We should send our nuclear waste into the sun. No. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are on the channel this week. Maybe our collaboration with Adam Savage, I will let you know. Later this month, we'll have part 2 from Chernobyl, where we spend, it's going to be a longer video, maybe 30 minutes, 45-minute video all done up all nice, exploring the abandoned city in the shadow of Chernobyl, Pripyat. We might be streaming. I might attempt to play Escape from Tarkov until I successfully extract, and I've never played it before. You can see where that's going. Thank you to all of my members at the facility, all my professors, especially my moderating team, Jabo and Heather. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping everything nice and tidy. Thank you to all of you who simped for science today. Thank you, Sparky. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, all of the regulars. I see you. I feel you. And it all goes towards our mission of making tomorrow just a little bit nerdier than today. No matter where I see you next, I hope I will find you in a good mood, in a good place, and we'll be ready to talk about science once again. Have a great rest of your day. And hey, be nice to each other, because this is all we got. Bye-bye.